one way of thinking about this movie is as if there are positions, right? Like there's the kind of boss position, servant position, like so like Balin, Johnny, and Gilda. But then Johnny moves into Balin's position and tries to control her as Balin would, and then Gilda's off running around with other guys, which repeats that triangle. There's a structure that keeps getting filled in, and even when you take away something, so if you remove Balin from the picture with his plane crash, Johnny moves into the Balin position, and then Gilda has to find other guys to have sex with to get Johnny's attention. So it's always three things keep coming in here. Um, cool, and that question of decency comes back, right? That she's introduced with, "Hey, Gilda, are you decent?" Who, me? But then in the end, he's like, "I'm gonna make her be decent." Balin at the very beginning of the movie calls her Johnny says, "Who's the canary?" Meaning, who's the girl? Who's the bird? Who's the girl? Bird is like slang for girl. But like then at the end of the movie, that there's a callback to that. It reminds you of it, where Johnny says, "I trapped her like a bird in a cage," and he put her in this beautiful apartment, but he's keeping an eye on her so she can't have sex with anybody. Um, it's interesting, by the way. I was talking about that role reversal. There's a great moment where Johnny says, "Listen," he tells one of his guys, "Keep an eye on Mrs. Munson. I mean Mrs. Farrell, because he's flipped up who she belongs to. Balin's dead, and he's married to her, but he still feels like she's the boss's girl, and is going to try to control her because he's the boss now. He's gonna he reinvents himself as a better version of Balin, like Balin tried to control the tungsten and tried to control Gilda, but Johnny's going to successfully control the tungsten and successfully control Gilda now that he's the new Balin. Um, all right, cool. This is going really well. All right. Okay, cool. So, yeah, okay. So Johnny takes every man from Gilda so she can't cheat on him anymore. She can't have any fun. He controls her sexuality. There's a great moment, by the way, where she gets in the car in the taxi and it says Libra on it, or Liber, which is free. But of course, Gilda sees, meaning the taxi is free and you can take it somewhere. The driver is free to drive you somewhere. But of course, when she gets in the taxi, that's the moment she realizes that Johnny has trapped her in this role and she tries to run away with these guys. And every time she gets sort of caught. Um, it's why the climax of the movie. Oh, sorry, hold on a second. Yeah, that scene where she's doing the dance routine for the lawyer, the dance routine that's not Blame It on Maine, but the other one about performing. She's singing a song about performing and doing this dance. But like that's what she's doing all the time, is she's performing these roles for these guys who are watching her. There's a reference to you can get your marriage annulled. She says, they talk about, can you get a divorce? No, you can't get a divorce, but you can get the marriage annulled. Annulment, this is an important detail that, again, if you don't know what annulment is, it's something you need to kind of follow what's going on in the movie. Annulment is divorce is when you get married and then you break up. Annulment is like a kind of religious divorce where they were like the marriage was never real in the first place. And annulment is reserved, theoretically, annulment is reserved for, you get married, but you never have sex with that person. And so if you get married and you don't have sex with a person, you could get the marriage annulled. It's not divorce. If you're divorced, it's like this happened to you in the past. But if you're annulled, they're like, oh, you didn't have sex. Well, the marriage didn't count then. So you don't have to get divorced. You can get it annulled. So it's just the fact that it's in the movie is the movie's way of telling you, John, not only can Gilda not have sex with all these dudes, Johnny's not having sex with her either because he's punishing her for her sexual escapades the first time he was with her. Um, so it's interesting that Johnny repeatedly, in his previous relationship with Gilda, when he's working for Balin, when he's married to Gilda, in all three of those relationships, he feels like his role is to stop her from having sex. Um, Even though, as she points out, he seems to enjoy her going off with other guys. And he's either going to cover up her sex or he's going to try to control it. All right, cool. And this is why the climax of the film is the Blame It on Mame dance performance, that she sets up this whole event where she's going to do a striptease. Now it doesn't seem like the sexiest thing in the world. I mean, I think it does because Rita Hayworth is doing it, but theoretically she just takes her glove off in front of an audience full of men. But the idea is she says, "Oh, I always have trouble with zippers." She's ready to take all of her clothes off in front of a room full of people, as a way of kind of displaying, because Johnny's been controlling her from going to this hotel room with this guy or going to that hotel room with that guy. So she says, screw it. I'm going to have all of these men take my clothes off in front of everyone, as a way of displaying her sexuality and displaying her ferocious sexual appetite, and of humiliating Johnny, the cuckold, the cuck, the husband who is being made fool of. And that's the climax of the film, is Johnny has to basically drag her off stage before she takes her clothes off and has sex with everyone in that room. Like, I don't, it's a little bit of an exaggeration, but it's there. The idea that her unbridled sexuality is, she's like, well, if I can't do it in private, I'm going to do it in public in front of everybody because it's the only freedom she's got. And that's why she has that kind of complete breakdown. Because she's in this incredibly self-destructive relationship with Johnny. They even talk about how much they hate each other when they embrace. When he's at Balin's house with her by himself, and I hate you so much I want to die. Well, interestingly, die, if you know French, die is a slang term meaning orgasm. The French call an orgasm le petit moi, the little death, because it's supposed to be, it's like this intense experience. It's like a little, I don't know, it's French. So it's a French slang term for orgasm is the little death. They had this idea that when you had orgasms, you were like losing your life essence, and so you were short for men. You were losing your life essence, and so you were shortening your life by a couple of minutes every time you had an orgasm, and so they referred to orgasms as sort of little death. So she's like, I hate you and I want to die, but they're like making out, and there's a bed right there. And in a fantastic move, when she puts her arm around him, you can see her sorry, wrong thing, right hand. She has her wedding ring, like, is very, very visible in the picture, when that happens. And then she has her total breakdown right after that, because she's trying to sort of get his attention. And that's when we move into the final stretch of the movie, which is truly one of the strangest things I've ever seen in a movie. Let me see if there's any. I feel like this is going to have to go into one more video. 7 minutes on this one. I need a little wiggle room, so I'm going to end this one short, and then I'm going to finish it with the next one. So I'll see you in the next and final video. Yeah, okay, cool. No, I gotta say, no, I gotta finish. I'm gonna hit the 9-minute mark, so I'll just talk about it. So the cop says to Johnny, it was all an act. She never did anything with those guys that you thought she was doing. She never cheated on you, Johnny. It was always an act to get your attention, and you were the perfect audience. And that's what he says to him. It is a crazy moment at the end of the movie, on a couple of levels. Number one, it's cute, by the way, that the cop has been watching this closely. The cop is like interested in Johnny living happily ever after with Gilda, and so he tells Johnny this thing that'll sort of save his relationship with Gilda. You can imagine a movie, for example, that wants to claim this. Gilda's been sleeping with all of these guys, we think, but we never actually see them have sex. And then at the end of the movie, they show you in flashback how she's not really having sex with any of them. She's paying them to pretend they had sex with her and whatever, right? And then it turns out she never cheated on anybody. She just pretended to, because that's the way to get Johnny's attention, because that's Johnny's fucked up psychology. So you can imagine a movie that would show you in flashback she never did anything wrong. But this movie does something else. This movie just has the cop say that she never cheated on him, which leaves this weird, fascinating. And again, this is why you got to talk about not just the characters in the film, but the people watching the film. It creates this weird moment because we have no idea whether the cop is telling the truth. He just says, well, she never cheated on you. And then Johnny has to decide. It doesn't seem like that's likely, but if he just chooses to believe this very unlikely story, he could live happily ever after with Gilda. Similarly, we, the audience, don't know what to think because we just have this cop, and the cop, by the way, wants Johnny and Gilda to get together because he can see that they love each other. So it feels like the cop is lying, and that maybe Johnny knows he's lying, but is going to choose to believe it anyway. And then the final question is, are we, the audience, going to believe it anyway? Are we going to choose to believe that she was not cheating on Johnny, but just pretending to cheat on Johnny? And I'll talk more about that in the final video on Gilda.